So what I'm going to do here first is I'm just going to do Notepad. And actually, this is not a bad place to work on it. And let me change the font to something really large. Is this big enough? It's actually, is that big enough for you to see from the back, or you want a little bigger? It's good enough. So basically, this is Java script object notation is what it stands for. And it is just JavaScript. But it has, if you've ever done with JavaScript, it has all the same problems you're likely to encounter if you're doing JavaScript. It's case sensitive. It has curly braces. You know, anything's not quoted that should be quoted, it will fail. If you're missing a comma, it will fail. You know, there are all sorts of things. So I'm going to show you two ways. After we come up with this, we're going to do like a sample database. I think since it was Oscar night last night, we'll do movies and movie reviews. So I'll just do real quickly movie and movie reviews. That'll be what our database will be about, sort of, and it will just we'll talk about what the JSON could look like for that. And I'll actually show you how to put it in, although you don't have to. Today's assignment is not to implement it, but I will show you so you can sort of see how it would work after you do it. Does that make sense? And I'll show you how to do it command line, and I'll show you how to do it with the compass. To me, it's easier at the command line, but I'll show you both. It took me a while. I had to play with it all weekend to figure out how to do some of it in the compass. So one of the things the assignment asked for is to figure out what the collections would be. And there is a lot of room here. This has more flexibility in how you set things up than the relational databases did. I mean, this is this is kind of wide open. A collection, do you guys remember what a collection is? It's kind of like a table. It's a collection of objects. The difference with a table is it doesn't have a set schema. The things inside of it can be different from each other a little bit. But still, you want the collections to be kind of about, in my mind, you want to kind of still group things by type. You know what I mean? But I'll show you some variations that you could do of it. What do you think for movies and movie reviews? What would kinds of collections be? Well, those you're thinking fields, so I want to think of what the big collection would be.
So on these two questions, we're talking about what aspects would you say about it?
Well, so I'm thinking things like big groups, like you might have movies as a list of things. You might have genres. And again, one of the things to know is that you can't, there's no joins, there's no links, there's no lookup in a relational database. But I'll show you. We could have genres if you want. Movies, genres. Reviews, right? The actual reviews. And there are ways where you could combine this all into one collection. Or you can have multiple collections. As I said, this is it's a different way of looking at things. Does that make sense? You might want, if you know, the actual reviewers, you know, who they are, register, things like that. Now, again, my tendencies, and I actually probably should research this more, I tend to, but my tendency is to want to separate things the way you do in a relational database. I tend to want to get finer. You could also, as I said, do this as all one big mess. But you could organize it, and That actually might be a better strategy. I don't know. I'm going to show you ways with lots of redundancy. Let's look at movies real quickly. So this one will be the movies. And I'm going to do started curly brace and into curly brace. This will be for the object. Typically, there you will have an ID. Now you do not have to create an ID because it will create one for you. If you want to control the numbering, you need to make the ID. If you don't care, because it'll give you a hexadecimal number, about 15 digits, which is fine because you don't use them for foreign keys. So it's up to you if you want an ID or not. You could search by ID. You could search by any field. You'd have to know what the field is. Typically, and if you're thinking about a join, like if you wanted to see movies and actors and things like that, you might have to, like query actor and then query the movie. There's no, as I said, there's no joins. So you just basically have to choose a value and then search for that value in there. I'm going to just number them. But again, if you leave the ID out, it will have an ID. There is always a field called _ID. And that is, and it needs to be unique. It has to be unique, just like a primary key, although it doesn't actually function. Other than as a unique identifier, it doesn't do much else. It doesn't work as a foreign key. So what, the title? What movie do we want to do? Princess Bride, okay. What else would you want to know about it? What year was it? It's old. Anybody know, is it the 1990s? Late 80s? Let's do like 1988 then. I mean, we could look this up. The thing is, for a movie database, can't beat INODB. Or IM, International Movie Database, IMDb. 1987. 1987? That was close. Here's something that's a bit different. Let's say actor. I don't remember names of any of the actors. Does anybody? Is it Carrie? How? UL? E? EW? WES. We'll just do a couple of them. Okay. Anyone else? Let's do just one more. What?
Mandy Patinkin.
Mandy, how do you spell?
P-A-T-I-N-K-I-N.
P-I-P-A-T.
I-N-K-I-N.
All right, that's enough for now. Yes, it does. They should all be double or single. They could be either, but they need to. So this, one of the reasons I wanted to do this shows something that you are never supposed to do in a relational database. We've created an array of actors, right? And in a NoSQL database, that's perfectly okay. Is there anything else we want to know about the movie?
Studio?
Yeah, that would probably be good. I have no idea what studio it's from either. Warner Brothers? All right. So let's let that be good. So part of it is figuring out what things you want to track. And again, I'm kind of grouping them because, as I said, my whole instinct is to separate things. But I'll show you some ways to join them in a bit. So this is, again, the ID. Basically, these are the field names, and they can be quoted or not. It's up to you whether you quote these or not. But if there are certain things that have to be quoted, like if you put a space in the name, it would have to be quoted. If you have any characters like an @ sign or anything like that, it would have to be quoted, right? So as long as it's a single word for the key value, the key over here, then it can be quoted or not quoted. The colon separates the key from the value. It's always a key value pair. So this is the key, this is the value. Key value, key value, key value, key value. There's a lot of programming structures that are set up that way. Not that we need to go into those, but hashes and arrays and things like that can be set up that way. Does that make sense though? And this is a real simple one. I want to do a couple of complicated ones. I also suggest that when you're coming up with the patterns for the database, it really helps me just to kind of mock up a record, you know, as a way of seeing what the JSON would look like. It doesn't have to be any of the actual records, but it helps me see what the structure is when you mock it up like that. Does that make sense? And you might mock up a couple of other records if there are variations that you think that you might want, you know, that might happen in there. Does that make sense? I don't know. So movies will be our collection here. I'm going to put collection movies here. Do you guys have questions on this so far? And as I said, there's no right or wrong here. As I said, there are ways you could do this all by yourself.
You don't need us.
Well, so when we do the assignment, it's basically a music, following the music performances in town. It's called, what did I call it? Show tracker. And so basically what bands are playing where in town. So you wanted things like venues and shows and artists, perhaps.
There's no semicolon there?
No. Which, if you were doing this in regular JavaScript, there would be at the end. But no semicolon. In fact, I think it would throw an error. There was something else I was thinking of putting in there, but I don't know what it was. You could put things like rating. And it is case sensitive, so it's really a good idea to create a pattern. Must be G. Is it?
PG.
PG? I wonder what, I guess there's a little bit of fighting. Yeah. And the other thing I was thinking was we could in this put in, even though we might have a listing of genres, we might put the genre in here, and probably that could be like a fantasy, romance. What else? Maybe nothing else. What? Comedy. That's a good one. It's interesting in this. Anybody ever go to those outdoor showings, summer theaters? Princess Bride is a perpetual movie for those. Probably because they can get it cheap. All right. So even if we do, and again, we have an array of these, right? One of the neat things that we get to the querying part, which we won't today, is that even though this is an array, if you wanted to look for all the movies with romance, it would just pull romance out of the array. I mean, it would do that without you having to say anything, and it would just do that. So it's pretty good at selecting, even if it's a list of things. A relational database would never do that. I'm not entirely sure how this does it, but it does. All right, so let's do collection reviews. Do we want to do reviewers first? Let's do reviewer. Reviewer. And again, we could give it its own ID if we want, or we can give it our own ID. Couple of things I want to mention too as we go on here. The things that are going to drive you nuts. Make sure having all the curly braces in place. Square brackets, making sure they're in the right places. The commas, like right here, this will fail. So I didn't put a comma after rating.
You don't need one after.
You don't need one after the last one. In fact, I think it'll throw an error if you put one at the last one. But if you leave out a comma after one of these key value pairs, it will fail. So commas, curly braces, square brackets, those kinds of things will mess you up. One of the reasons I'm doing this in Notepad is that you can copy and paste from here into the command line. And it's a lot easier to edit here than it is at the command line. And I'll show you that in a moment. So a reviewer, we would probably want, do we need their name? Just like a username, right? I have no idea. Joe. Probably you would want their email. You'd almost have to be the very first person in Gmail. So we could make it more realistic. What else would you want to know about them? Maybe date registered. Now, there is a way to make this a date, and I forget the function name for it. I am going to, if I just do this, what is today? 3/5. That'll just be a string, right? It won't treat it as a date. It is possible to make it a date. I'll look at that in a moment. Is there anything else we want to know about the reviewer?
Would you have his review?
You could put their reviews here. You could. So we haven't done reviews yet, but let's do reviews. And this is going to introduce us into a whole new kettle of fish in some ways. And let's do a square bracket here because there'll be more than one review. So I'm going to just do movie that's being reviewed. Princess Bride, I guess. Title of the review. Anybody have a title? That's kind of fun.
The Red Wedding.
The what? The Red Wedding. I'm not sure if I remember with that. Um, so probably the date of the review. And if you want to use Camel, haven't been using Camel. Yeah, I have been using it some. When you search, it all has to be, doesn't have to be lowercase, but case is an issue, so it's really good to be consistent in case. So if everything's lowercase, it makes it easier. And it's more typical to do that than everything uppercase. Or you could do camel case if you're consistent with it. The trick would be to be consistent. Let's do it a couple of days ago. So let's say rating, which will mean something very different than the other rating. So let's say they give it a 3 out of a 5. And then the review itself. Although you could, instead of doing the whole review, let's just do this. Let's just give a bit of the, enough that they could find the review in the reviewing table. So I'm going to do another curly brace, comma, and we'll do another review. And I'm going to close, I wanted to close the curly brace. Oh, by the way, don't use tabs. I don't know if I just did. Tabs will cause failures in the command line because they are a character, right? And the indentation that I'm doing here is purely for readability. It doesn't need it. So let's do another movie. What other movie? Anything? Shape of Water won last night, yes. I didn't actually watch the Academy Awards, but I saw it in the news. What would be the title of the review? Fish sex or something? Underwater? I have no idea. It's supposed to be a really good movie, actually. But I don't care what the title is, just somebody a title. Okay. He's also the director, is the one that did Pan's Labyrinth, right? Which was really weird, and it's very sad. And so the review date, I guess we could do, since it's due today. I might change these to actual dates once I figure out how. I've done it before, but it's been a while. So, is there anything else we would want to know about the user? We've got these reviews. I'm going to do a square bracket again to close that. And again, where it is on the lines doesn't matter. I'm going to delete those spaces. It's just a matter of just trying to keep clear what's going on. So this is something you can do in a NoSQL database, a document. You can have objects inside of objects. All right, and it works really fine, but it's a very different way of thinking about things. So when I do reviews, the thing is, under movies, you could have a collection of reviews too, right? And you could possibly just put everything into one big, long, complicated collection. So we got reviewers. Let's do reviews, which will be similar to what we have here. Except I'll add a little bit more. Doing the curly braces. One of the things that I've learned over many years of programming is that it's really wise to do the beginning and ending curly brace at the same time, so you don't forget the end one. I'm going to just copy this part. I'm going to move these back. Maybe move it all back a little bit. Whoa, not that much. So let's do like a rating for the movie. And by that I mean like on a 5 scale of 1 to 5. So let's do like a 3. There would be like the review text. I have no idea. Here's another thing when you're doing, if you're doing text that's very long, there's a tendency to want to break your lines if you're in Notepad. Don't do that. You can turn word wrap on for yourself, but if you break the line, it'll break the entry. Okay, so that's my review text. Is there anything else that I want there? Let's just do the next one. And this will be given an automatic ID. Let's let it do that. Is this making any sense? And the records don't actually have to match each other. Oh, you know what else needs to be in here? I'll add it in just a second. We need to know, or let's make it 4.5. We need to know who the reviewer is in the review, right? So up here we have reviewer. So I'm just going to do reviewer email, or do we want just their username? Maybe just username. Up here it's just username, so let's just do that. And we'll do Joe. We could put more about the reviewer. We could also put the email. Oops. But one of the things that's different about this than relational databases is that redundant, they don't try to not be redundant. We talked about that. In relational databases, repeat everything wherever you want, basically. Again, it still has some of those same problems, like if I mistype the email over here or something, and we searched by email, we might not find it, right? Might not find that review. So this is the same person, right?
Up above in the reviews, you had a comma the different things? Does there need to be a comma?
So these are inside of another object. Now, if I wanted to insert these both together, which is possible, you can insert multiples. So if I wanted to insert these two reviews together, I could do a square bracket here, square bracket here.
It's only if you're making an array if there has to be the comma.
Well, I'd put a comma between objects if I was making an array, yeah. But you don't need that if you're just going to insert them one at a time, you don't need that. But this will allow us to insert both of them. And this one I'm not going to have any review text. I'll just maybe they just gave it a rating of a number and they didn't, they do that on products a lot. Mainly because like at least on my iPad and phone, they constantly want the rating and they almost force you to give it. So you just swipe a couple of numbers and go back, which tells me that the ratings aren't worth much. But, all right, so this is, now the thing is that this is basically what I want you guys to do when you do your groups, is to think through the show tracker database, which we'll look at more carefully in a minute, and just see what you think the JSON would look like, right, to capture the kinds of stuff that you want. So it's a little bit different than the table structures and the relationships and all of that. Yeah.
Is there a way of doing a subgroup to your description? Like, for example, if I wanted to do something about tickets and I had a collection that called ticket and a description called prices, but a ticket has many different prices, like adult, child, elderly, dog. So is there a way of putting that into one description, or do I have to make multiple descriptions for adult price to?
You could put it just like a sub object like this. So you could do like a ticket object, and then you could say ticket type : price. All right, you could do this. Insert an object with all the different ticket prices, which would be different, and not everything would have multiple prices. Right, a lot of things are just one price. Or there might be, the prices might not be based on adult or whatever. They might be based on floor, a balcony, that kind of thing. So you can do almost anything, as long as it is a legitimate JSON structure, right? It should work inside of Mongo. So I'm going to do this in Mongo. First, I'm going to do it with the command line, because I think that's easier. And then I will show you how to do it in Compass, to put this kind of stuff in it. Again, that isn't something for today's assignment, but it's something that's coming up, and it may make it easier to see how these things work. So if there's questions about what these are, maybe that will make it simpler when we look at it. So I am real quickly just going to lower this. So we have this. I have two notepads, I see. I'm going to do the MongoD first. The MongoD has always got to be running if you're going to do the others. So I'm going to do the command line first. And I'm going to make my font much, much bigger. So let's do font 36 is probably too big. Is that too big, or is that about right? Do you want it black or white on black, or do you want me to change the colors? You think this is good? Okay. All right. So we have movies. We need to give it a name. Anybody have an idea what to name the movies? The whole database? MovieDB? All right, so I'm going to say use movie. Let's just keep it lowercase. Okay, so it says switch to DB MovieDB, right? So that database didn't exist. It does now. Although, if you come back like tomorrow at this point, it won't be there unless you add stuff to it. Does that make sense? If it doesn't contain anything, it'll go away. So I'm going to, now we're in DB movie D. I'm going to do DB, which is actually the current database context, which in this case is movie DB. Is that, I wonder if, can I move this, is that better up higher? I'm going to say movies, and I'm actually going to, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to add the word collection to it just to be clear what it is. So movies collection, and I'm going to do an insert, and I'm going to open a parentheses, and I'll get my movies from the curly brace to the curly brace. I'll do this first movie. I will copy that. And weirdly, if I right click right here, it pastes it. I'm going to close the parentheses. And if I press enter, mine says inserted, right? And it inserted because it had no errors. But if it doesn't, if it has errors, those will show up right now. So this is at the command line. This is still hard to see, I think. DB movies collection.insert. And then I wrote, and you could type all this into the command line if you want. You can make the line breaks, everything if you want in the command line. It's just that if it fails, it's a lot harder to fix than it is if it's in the notepad.
Did you press enter to run it? Sorry, I missed it.
What? I just did movie collection.insert, and then I right click to get the copy.
Well, if you get a syntax error, what happens?
Then it won't copy. So what you'll need to do is to fix it and then do it again. What error did you get?
Oh, I forgot to throw a close parentheses.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it has to have a parentheses at the end to close the whole argument. This whole object is inserted into that parentheses. I wonder if I could turn the lights down even more. Would it help? Again, this is not today's assignment. It's just to show you how this stuff works once you build it. I'm going to do db.movies collection .find, and you'll see that it has the record there. Find is like select star from. It's the same thing. You can also, if you prefer, db.movies collection .find, and what I'm going to do is just do .pretty. Did I do this last time? And it will show. It'll show the movie. Is this what I entered? Did I enter the wrong one? Under movie. No, it's the right one. It has the actors, it has the studio, it has the genre. Yeah, that's fine. Just looked weird for a moment. Okay. Does that make sense so far? I mean, again, this is more, we'll do this again. It'll probably take a little while to get the hang of it. If I do db dot, so let's do reviewer. So I'll do db dot reviewer collection. Let me raise that a little bit. Dot insert, and then I'll copy the reviewer information. So I copy, weirdly, again, right-clicking paste, close the parentheses, press enter, it said it inserted, so that one should be there. Another error, or you got it?
I can't even type on this.
You can't, why?
I don't know. What will type
Inside of the,
inside of
Do you-
Mongo?
you can't do it in MongoD. You have to open Mongo. MongoD is
Yeah,
this,
yeah, so that's why.
yeah,
There we go. All right.
okay.
Missed a step.
Yeah, MongoD is the server.
Okay.
And then I'm going to do the other one, and then what we'll do is we'll go to, so this is reviews. We'll go to the compass, and I'll show you how to do it there too. So I'm going to do db.reviews collection .insert, and I'll copy from the square bracket down to the square bracket, paste, close the parentheses, and I have an error. Oh, I see the error. Do you guys see the error? I was missing a comma after Joe. So I am going to do, whoa, that isn't what I wanted. So I guess I'll just type it, db dot reviews collection insert, and I want to recopy it with the comma in place. Whoa, went way too far. Okay. Paste.
Can we just right click in it, please?
Yes. It's weird, I know.
Let's see.
So it inserted two. What? So you have to make sure you copy it.
Yeah.
And then right click right at that one spot. It should paste. If that fails, way up at the top here, there's edit and paste. So I'm going to do db.reviews collection .find. I will do .pretty and press enter, and it'll have the two reviews. So you can insert multiples at once, but like we did there. If you wanted to search for a particular one, and this is the last thing I'll do here, because this is something for next time. I'm going to do .reviews collection .find, and then we'll do this, and then we do a and then we do a curly brace, and let's say I want let's just do title colon shape of water. Oh, notice too, in the review, we let it provide the ID. So it's a fairly long number in hex. So if I do this, oh, why did it not like that? Oh, because I forgot. So I'm going to do a fail. It failed because I forgot the curly brace at the end. No, I'm looking for, oh yeah, that's true. it just would return nothing. Because nothing would match that. Come on. I have to get the cursor out. And I didn't do pretty, but there it is. There we go. So it selects just that one, right? Just the shape of water. So the thing to, even the queries are in JSON. You say what key you're looking for, what value. They can get more complex than that. But. So does it kind of make sense? I just wanted to show how the JSON's used once you do it. I mean, basically everything in the database is in this kind of JSON object. And this is pretty typical of NoSQL. There are differences in the way that things are implemented, but they tend to use JavaScript and JSON for this data structures. So let me show you in Compass, and then we will. I will break you up into. We can break into groups and work on this. So I will zoom for Compass, I guess. I'm just going to enter one record in Compass. When you do this for the assignment, I think I would suggest doing it in Notepad. So I'm going to connect, and then I'll zoom. Notice it does have our movie DB. And when I click on it, it shows my collections. And when I open the collection, it shows the records. If I do the reviewer collection, it has an array there. And if I click on it, it has the two objects. Then you can just, open them and see kind of what's in them. So let's do a try to enter another user that does a review, couple of reviews. Maybe of the same movies even, but we'll just enter a new record for this. It took me forever to figure out how to do it in this context, and I'll show you kind of how it does. It looks like we might need to zoom up even more. I don't know. That's pretty small, although it's really a pain to. So one of the things, it gives you an ID, whether you want it or not. I think you can overwrite it. Oh, insert not permitted. Okay. While document contains errors. I was just trying to change that. There it goes. Except that it would fail. No, it won't. I wonder if I could get rid of. There we go. All right, and there's no commas here, and no, though if you look at these once we enter them, I will do that in a moment. So I'm going to do tab. And the next one was username. And what do we want for a username? Anything? What? So email. So hi. So then we had date. What was the next object? Will this move? It won't. Was it date added? Review date. Date registered. Now this is something that we can do where I can change the data type here to date. And I didn't want to, I just want to change that to date. And then this will be 2018 3/5. Okay. Let's
And you're
see.
just hitting character turn.
Yeah, I'm hitting tab. So we want to enter a new object. First of all, we want to, at this point, enter an array. And then at this point, we want to enter an object. Well, can I do that? It's an array of objects. So I think I need to give it a name like reviews, which could be nicer if it was spelled correctly. And then here I can enter an object, I believe. Well, actually, maybe I could have entered it here. Yeah, let's go. God, my mouse is driving me nuts here. Come on. It won't let me get over there to scroll. Yeah. So I'm going to do an object. And the object will have movie. The title. I have no idea what to do for a title for this. Very boring title. Interesting movie. Nobody's going to read this review. Title, and then review date. And I should probably do it as a lowercase. And let's make it as a date. And 2018 to, they have only joined today, or the 3rd, the 5th, oh well, 3, 5, I guess. All right, and I don't want this one. I want to go to here. Can I get rid of that? Can I get rid of that? There we go. I find this really tedious compared to just doing it in Notepad and copying it in. So this one would be 1, which is an object again. And then we would do the movie. I don't know what movie. I actually don't remember what the name of the last Star Wars movie was. Doesn't matter.
If you do mess up the cases on
It won't give you any errors. It just means when you search, it may not find it because it doesn't match case. So what do I want here? I want date. And yeah, I know. Okay, so I'm going to insert that. And notice it's here. Well, actually, is it there? We need to, this is reviewer collection if we want to do that. If we do a reviews collection, it is there at the top. No, actually, is it there? Where did we put it? We inserted it. It should be in review collection, right? Reviews collection. Should be there. Princess Bride, Fisherman. These are both Joes. I don't see that it went in. Here's another thing we can do. Let's see if it went in. So I'm going to do DB reviews collection dot find yeah. So it got the Joe. It didn't insert. Why did it not insert?
You did when you inserted it there, but you might have to insert it in the outer.
Shouldn't have to. Let me see.
Just there's that insert document.
Right, but that's what it should do. So when I do the insert document, and then it does insert, it should insert. I don't know why it didn't insert. Actually, did I do it in any other? No. I don't know that I want to do that again. That was painful.
You might have looked it up as reviewers,
Um,
and your name is reviewer. He's there.
the reviewer is?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mantis is there. You know, but the reviews isn't there. The array of reviews, that's what's not there. Right, we added the reviews, and they're not there. Notice how this one has the reviews, but this one doesn't. So I would suggest, I mean, you're welcome to play with this GUI, but I really would suggest using this. Also, command line is really good for you. The Mongo documentation, as I've said before, is really good. So, you know, I can help you with that. If you want to try using the GUI, I'm not sure why it didn't write. Didn't have any errors. It should have, when I did insert, it did insert the top part, but not the bottom part, which is weird. If we did, so I did reviews, and it would be in reviewer. Let's see if it actually inserted into this. And then we'll call it good. Reviewer collection dot find. So I didn't insert here either. Inserted the top part, but not the bottom part. This is how to do a date, though. That's what I was trying to remember. ISO date, and then put the date in. That treats it as a date. All right, so let's look at the assignment and not play with Mongo so much right now. We'll play with it later. So I'm going to go to here. I want to do the show tracker real quickly. I'm just going to do the PDF for it. You can zoom it a little if you need. So this is basically the database for this one is we want a database to track music shows and that occur at the clubs around town. There's no one place that has this, although somebody, I think it was last quarter, showed me there is an existing database that actually has all this information. I forget the name of it, but there actually is a database that does this in the town here. But it should track all the venues. I mean, that's places like the Jazz Alley, the Paramount, you know. Does the Comet do shows anymore? No. Wherever they are. When I used to live in Seattle in the 1990s, I knew where they were. Some information about the ticket. You know, the show information, you should know where the venue is, the time, the ticket, the list of the artists at the show, because a lot of shows have multiple artists. Ideally, it should also contain a description of the music and maybe the genre. Age restrictions, if there are any for the show, like a lot of them are in taverns, so you have to be 21 or older. So it would be nice if the user could search by venue, by date, by artist, by type of music. You should let users register, and ideally they should be able to list the artists they want to follow. And then you could do a database where you could do and with a NoSQL, it has to be multiple queries. You could do a query for which artist, and then you could query for all the users that want to know about that artist, and you could probably send out emails. Don't worry too much about the business rules. I was saying that every review, you can review the shows. Some people want to review the venues too. If you want to do that, I guess you could. I said reviews should have a 0 to 5 rating on them. I don't care that much about that. It's up to you guys. So this is sort of the idea of the database. And the thing that I want you to come up with today, and we'll do it in groups, as I said, is something like this, where you basically just figure out what kind of collections you might have and what they might look like. It's just, at this point, we'll just a point for discussion. If we look at I'm going to look at people real quickly. This is a different view than what you have, but there is a show tracker groups, and you can join those groups. They can be the same groups as what you've got now, or that you can change, mix and match groups if you want. But I think it's good to discuss it. That's why the group for this. I will, next class, do a quick overview with you if it's good or not, and then you can build a database and put that data in it. And again, it'll be kind of like the other one, just 4 or 5 records in each collection. It'll be a bit more tedious in a different way because of the JSON. It's a different thing to adapt to. And then I'll show you how to query it, probably next week. We'll do queries on this, and then we'll be pretty much done, right? So I might spend like 1 class or 2 talking about security, and then I'll probably give you an open lab or 2 at the very end to catch up if you need. So for people that need to catch up. So questions on that? What I want, as I said, turned in today is basically something like this notepad. If you want to do it in brackets or something else, that's okay too, but brackets does JSON fairly natively. But handwriting it like this is probably just as good or better. The only thing with brackets is sometimes if you do brackets, you don't want to tab. Tabs seem to be poison inside of the command line here. Does that make sense? You guys are okay with that?
If you want to put in
So I think it's easier to see what's going on with sample data, but if you just do, I suppose you could just do the keys with the colon, you know, you could just list the keys. But be aware that there might be variations of it in the same table, like some things, you know, some, like one variation that's fairly common is that a show might have one artist, or it might have 5 or 50, you know. So that could be a single value or an array. Not every piece of information needs to be with every show. Like if age restriction doesn't apply, you don't necessarily have to include that field. You know, it's unlike a relational database where it has a rigid structure. It doesn't have a rigid structure. Just give it a shot. I just want to see what you come up with. And the same with for groups here. Again, if you do the group, only one person in the group has to turn it in. You can drag into whichever groups you want. You know, just join the group. As I said, I think it's good to have a discussion about it. You've got like an hour, which should be enough time to get at least going on it. Is that makes clear? It's okay. I will post what we did here. I will post the examples here into the blog, and I'll post the video right now. So first thing I think I'll do is kill the video.